Imagine, if you will, Karla's voice delivering these words to you on Palm Sunday, the day Jesus rides astride a donkey in a triumphant procession into Jerusalem, a procession that will ultimately lead to his death. Once again, Karla's voice and a donkey. From The Poet Thinks About the Donkey by Mary Oliver. On the outskirts of Jerusalem, the donkey waited, not especially brave or filled with understanding. He stood and waited. How horses turned into the meadow leap with delight. How doves, released from their cages, clatter away, splashed with sunlight. But the donkey, tied to a tree as usual, waited. Then he let himself be led away, and then he let the stranger mount. Never had he seen such crowds, and I wonder if he at all imagined what was about to happen. Still, he was what he had always been: small, dark, obedient. I hope finally he felt brave. I hope finally he loved the man who rode so lightly upon him as he lifted one dusty hoof and stepped, as he had to, forward. Karla used this poem in the last public sermon she preached on March 24th, 2024, at St. James Episcopal Church in Fremont, California. She reflected upon Jesus' entry into Jerusalem as a procession that ended at the empty tomb. If you'd like to see it, you can find it on YouTube. 3 days after Karla preached this sermon, she called me from an emergency department in California to say that she was stricken by sudden symptoms and that the scans were suspicious for metastatic cancer. That diagnosis was confirmed by biopsy just a few days later. Who knew at that time that our dear Karla was stepping, as she had to, forward into 15 months of surgeries, chemotherapy, side effects, and complications that would greatly limit her activities and ultimately her life. I don't know about you, but as her friend, I stand before you today while holding so many deep and conflicting and paradoxical emotions. I am filled with sorrow. When Sylvia, Karla's sister-in-law, called me on the morning of May 12th, it felt as if my heart had broken. But then I felt relief that Karla's suffering had ended and that she was in the embrace of a God whom she believed in and loved so deeply. And remembering this made me cry even more. I felt guilty that I couldn't attend her ordination because of other pastoral obligations here. And I'm so sad that Karla died before I could visit. I had plane tickets to visit her on May 19th. But I also feel tremendous joy that Karla came into my life and that I knew her at all. And I still feel such deep love for her. I still struggle with anger and dismay when I think that good, kind, and loving Karla had to suffer and die from a terrible illness, while evil and unjust people seem to thrive as they just inflict suffering upon others. And at times, I must confess, I wonder what I even really believe about death and resurrection and heaven, and yes, even God at times. But here I am, and here are you, and we are together, united in our love for Karla and bound together by our grief. Karla and I often consulted with each other as we prepared sermons. I remembered that she had preached on Palm Sunday 2024, so I called her as I was preparing my sermon for this year. A sermon I preached from this very pulpit just a few months ago. And I remember her saying, "To me, Palm Sunday is all about the procession. Everyone wants to preach about the Passion, but the momentum and the spiritual energy is found in the procession, moving from place to place through multiple experiences, being transformed from one state of being into another." And then she said, Palm Sunday is all about the movement. It's the journey with Jesus from birth through life to death and resurrection unto new life with God forever. End quote. Only a dancer could say, Palm Sunday is all about the movement. But she was right. So rather than relying upon my meager thoughts, I think we should let Karla preach to us today. She certainly did this through the life she lived, but she offers us so much today through the readings and the music that she has selected for this very funeral liturgy. Let's go back to Mary Oliver. He lifted one dusty hoof and stepped as he had to, forward. Karla's words, Palm Sunday is all about movement. It's the journey with Jesus from birth through life to death and resurrection unto a new life with God forever. And from Psalm 23 that we prayed together, He guides me along right paths for his namesake. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for you are with me. Karla's procession through life was filled with so much depth, meaning, and service. I didn't know her at this time, but I can only imagine her as a small child, dancing with unbridled joy, tempered by discipline and a great sense of responsibility. Boy, I loved Karla, and I still love her. Her smarts, her sense of humor, her eye rolls, and her incredible insight into other human beings. But what touched me the most was her compassion. Karla was a woman who was touched by sorrow and acquainted with grief. She loved and missed her parents so much. And she lost several close friends in the years that I knew her. I think her heart was broken so many times that it was broken open by God, as Parker Palmer would say. And through her faith, she learned to hold her heart open, by the cross of Christ. And she had the unique capacity to hold her own pain and the pain of the world in a new way, in a way that transmitted life. And in a paradoxical way, Karla's heartbreak became the source of her healing as she reached out to others with empathy and compassion. And I know this because Karla extended that compassion to me at a very dark time when I was sick and feeling very broken. Karla's procession with cancer was not easy. As Sylvia says, Karla had every side effect and complication that one could have from cancer treatments. During her therapy, Karla suffered the perforation of her bowel. And in an emergency, Karla was presented with a difficult choice: do nothing and die an excruciating death in a few hours or days, or have a very risky surgery with a 50% chance of survival. Karla told me afterwards, well, I chose option 2, but I had to quickly accept that death was more than a possibility for me. God and I got to know each other on a more intimate level that day. And when I finally accepted that I was going to die, I began to truly live, even with a serious illness. So, Karla lifted her dusty foot and stepped as she had to forward into classes and schoolwork while managing a temperamental ileostomy, connecting with friends between visiting nurse appointments, living and loving others as she waited for healing or death to come. Engaging this procession through illness with quiet courage in the most ordinary and unassuming way. For Karla believed, as we heard today, that the steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. And God's mercies will never come to an end. and they are new every morning. I pray that she is dancing with the angels in the holy city, the New Jerusalem, where every tear has been wiped away and death will be no more. For she is with the source of love, her lover, who proclaims, "See, I am making all things new." I hope, finally, she felt brave. I hope, finally, she loved the one who walked so closely beside her as she lifted one dusty foot and stepped as she had to forward.